Thank you very much for coming. I just want to say welcome to Regent Park. Regent Park is a place that I call home. It was actually the first community when I came to Canada. I arrived at here. It used to not look like this, but it got better when it comes to the physical. But we will tell you everything about this community, what is happening, what has happened, and what is coming. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Ibrahim Afrah. I work for Fred Victor. I am the events and volunteer coordinator. Today I will be joined by many partners. One of them includes the Cultural Bazaar from TD Learning Center. We will be joined by the Social Development Plan, Employment and Economic Table. And all of these acronyms, we will explain them very well. I will also be joined by our partners in this community that are revitalizing the community, Toronto Community Housing. I will be joined by Daniel's Cooperation and also Tridel, which are also part of the developers. So many partners are putting this workshop for you, just so you are able to learn about what is happening in terms of Regent Park. While we come back for the land acknowledgement, we're just going to get started with the tour. We're not going to be outside. We will be using a model of the whole neighborhood. This model is thanks to Daniels, who thought of it. And we will go there and talk about the Regent Park of the past, the Regent Park of today, and the Regent Park of tomorrow. So if you're able to get up, join us right there.
All right. Thanks, everyone. So, hi, my name is Fatima Saya. I'm a senior manager of social impact at the Daniels Corporation. So Daniels is a developer builder, and over the last 17 years, we've been the developer partner with Toronto Community Housing, of Toronto Community Housing, for the revitalization of Regent Park. So this is Regent Park. You can see from the scale model, this is where you are. You're actually located right over here. And I'm going to share a little bit about Regent Park, its history, briefly, our work here, and really how it relates to creating the kinds of spaces that facilitate or build that social fabric in communities that really create spaces for markets to take place as well. Before we do that, I know that there was a hiccup with the land acknowledgement, so I'm going to read one out so that we can get started on the right foot. So the City of Toronto acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and the Chippewa bands. The City of Toronto has been acknowledging the traditional territory since March 2014 due to conversations with Indigenous leaders, including Aboriginal advisory committees as part of the 2018 Toronto for All campaign. Thank you. So, to begin, Regent Park, as you see it here, looked very different 17 years ago. We won't have a chance, maybe we'll have a chance, or you'll have a chance to walk around the neighborhood a little bit. If you do, you'll see that directly behind this part of the community, you'll see some of the older buildings that sort of represent what the community looked like, or a little bit closer to what the community looked like 17 years ago. Built in the late 40s, early 50s, Regent Park was initially created as an exclusively social housing community. So 69 acres, exclusively social housing, rent geared to income homes, 2,083 units in total. It was the largest social housing neighborhood in the country. And when it was initially developed, it was really created for veterans coming home from World War II. And as Canada grew, and as the community, the city and this community welcomed newcomers and immigrants from around the world, the community became very, very diverse very quickly. And it's really one of the pieces of richness of this community that still exists today. It's still a very diverse community. Now, one of the things that happened as part of kind of those changes as well was a real underinvestment by the social housing providers from the federal government. It was initially built by the federal government. And this is a similar story that we've heard many times in North America and even around the world, that sort of that underinvestment in maintenance causes communities to deteriorate, particularly when we're talking about social housing communities. And so as the community welcomed newcomers who were also facing their own kind of exclusion and not necessarily getting the resources they needed, their community was likewise also deteriorating. So that really led to a significant number of social and economic problems. I mean, the community initially built on a garden city planning model, if you know a little bit about those, meant that like streets had been taken out. So it was totally disconnected from the grid of the city. It was totally disconnected economically because there were really only primarily residential homes here, no businesses. And it was excluded really socially from the rest of the community around it because it was just social housing, right? So all of those compounding sort of factors led to a significant number of challenges in the community, social challenges, economic challenges that were faced by community members here. Now, as the time went on, the underinvestment sort of continued, and the federal government eventually downloaded the portfolio to the province, and then subsequently in the early 2000s, the province downloaded the portfolio to the cities. And that really, again, had just caused a lot of challenges until in the early 2000s when Toronto Community Housing was created. You know, they inherited this portfolio of about 60,000 units of social housing across the city, immediately becoming the second largest social housing provider in North America next to New York City, and looked at the state of the housing in this neighborhood and knew that something had to be done to really ensure that people were living safely, that social development was taking place, that economic development was taking place, and all of those sort of cultural, social, economic infrastructures that make communities vibrant and, you know, not only enjoyable, but sustainable places to live, needed to be revitalized in this particular neighborhood. So beginning in the early 2000s, Toronto Community Housing worked with community members who had been incredibly active in the neighborhood for many years, advocating for their community. There's a story about the community center that we really like to tell, the original community center. So the new community center is sort of just down at the end in the middle right there. That's Nelson Mandela School, and connected to it is a community center, so directly in front of you, just at the end there. Yeah, exactly. And the original community center was sort of located somewhere around here. And when it was initially built, it was really, it came from community members asking the city for a community center. They knew that they were having significant challenges, particularly with gang violence and gun violence, as we see in other low-income communities across North America, and knew that if their youth had places to go after school, that they would be safer, right? And so the community knew this and went to the city, went to the province, asked for that funding, and were turned away time and time again. And finally, you know, not giving up, but changing their approach, decided to go to the social housing provider and say, okay, forget all of these requests to you and to government. Instead, we are going to rally our neighbors, and they did, to increase their rent by $2 a month to start a fund to fund the building of their own community center, right? And I think that story is really important because it really, I think, tells or shares exactly the kind of community that lived there then and lives there now, because that culture of advocacy is still a really big part of the neighborhood. So, you know, in the early 2000s, Toronto Community Housing, to their credit, is working really closely with community members to understand, okay, you know, you've asked for a revitalization, you've asked for renovations, you've asked for these things. How can we make this work for you? And, you know, they hired community ambassadors to do research and ask their neighbors, what is it that you want to see here? And you'll hear a little bit later, I think, about the social development plan, which sort of came out of those discussions with recommendations of what the social and economic infrastructure would look like in this neighborhood. And also other kind of really integral parts of the revitalization and how it would roll out logistically. So for example, Regent Park community members really advocated for a right to return sort of program as part of the revitalization. So what that means is that while Toronto Community Housing residents understand that they're going to have to be relocated during redevelopment, they have advocated to be able to come back and still, even though it's a new unit, pay rent geared to income prices for their rent. So if rent has gone up, that's fine. their rent is geared to their income, their rent would go up. But if their rent has gone down in that time, then that's fine too, and that they still won't be sort of charged more rent for that. So that's sort of the background of this community here. Daniels was brought on as a development partner with Toronto Community Housing, and we've developed phases 1, 2, and 3 of the revitalization. So that's 53 of the 69 acres of the revitalization. So all of the buildings that you see here have been built by Daniels. One of the things that we really realized as a company early on was that while the zoning bylaw was sort of our roadmap in terms of what the buildings would look like, you know, setbacks, height, all of that stuff, the social development plan was a sister document to that zoning bylaw, because it really told us the types of investments that needed to be made in the community. It gave us a roadmap to understand how we would engage in the neighborhood to make sure that this revitalization was you know, rolling out in a way that benefited community members that had lived here previously and would continue to live here. And then also benefit community members who were going to be new to this community too. That was important as well. So part of that has been an investment in social, cultural, and economic infrastructures. And you know, when we think about sort of social, economic, cultural infrastructures, I think that they're always underpinned by a physical infrastructure, and that's great because we're a builder, and so that's fine with us. So how can we leverage the physical stuff that we're doing to make sure that it's actually, you know, creating space for those other important infrastructures of communities? So something that we really have thought about over the last 17 years is about spaces that build social fabric. So spaces that build social fabric, and I think, you know, we'll talk a little bit about this throughout the day that you're here, the morning that you're here. You know, how do spaces facilitate or sort of impede community in accessing them, using them, coming together in them? A big goal of the revitalization was social cohesion, right? You're bringing together communities that haven't lived together before. Market residents, Toronto Community Housing residents. How do you ensure that they're not just living next to each other, but are actually neighbors? And so spaces where they can meet, where they can interact, where they can connect, where their kids can play, are really, really crucial. So, I mean, you know, you'll talk a lot about the park. The park is is in the heart of the community. It's such an important space for community to come together and for the markets, in particular, Fred Victor's Taste of Regent Park. The park wasn't actually meant to be built in phase 2. So this park was built in phase 2, so probably about 12, 13 years ago now. But it wasn't supposed to be built until phase 5 of the revitalization, right? So when we first got the plan, we're looking at it, and the idea was that the park was going to be built in phase 5, which hasn't happened yet. So, right? And thinking about what that meant for social cohesion and what a missed opportunity that would be, right? We worked with Toronto Community Housing to lobby to move that up into phase 2, because creating a mixed income community with social cohesion isn't going to happen if people don't have a park space to hang out in, right? So understanding things like that. But then also intentionally incorporating other spaces where things can happen. So right in front of this building, actually, there's a plaza where the Cultural Bazaar takes place every year. And it's spaces like that where, you know, they're privately owned by Daniels and therefore easier to access than some city-owned spaces, and I'll get into that in a moment. You know, building that kind of space, building, you know, the spaces near Daniel Spectrum, which is kind of like the colorful building just over there, which is an arts and cultural hub. You can see it right in the middle of the neighborhood here, an arts and cultural hub, and creating those spaces where people can actually just come together, right? Another similar one is the athletic grounds. I mean, that's more sports and recreation focused, but really important from a social cohesion perspective too. That space didn't exist in the zoning bylaw at all. So it was a space that had been sort of requested through consultations during the park process. People were sort of saying, okay, but what about sports? You know, super diverse community, people were asking, where do we play cricket? And understanding that, okay, you know, carving out a space for this might mean adding some density to other buildings, some height to other buildings, but really carving it out. Our team is sort of famous for playing with whiteout a little too much and just kind of literally whiting out a space and saying, actually, this space would be really awesome for an athletic grounds that would bring people together through sports and recreation, right? And Daniel Spectrum is sort of similar to that. I hope you guys get to walk over there, hopefully, if it's not too rainy. Same thing.
We do have a team that will specialize in that building. We will have the SDP co-chairs of employment and economic table to talk about it in depth.
Yeah.
For sure.
So yeah, and the Arts and Cultural Hub is called Daniel Spectrum. We don't own the building; we just happen to have our name on it. And the story about that is a little bit funny, and I can tell that at a different time. But that was another space where it was through the social development plan that identified arts and cultural space for creative and cultural communities as being really important through the revitalization. And even though, the social development plan was the first of its kind, it was a really important foundational document of the revitalization, the reality is that it didn't actually mesh up very well with the zoning bylaw. Even though for us, we thought of it as kind of these two sister documents, the reality is the zoning bylaw said nothing about an arts and cultural center. Right? And so again, thinking about how we, adapt these plans, and I don't know if there's any planners in here or developers, but how we adapt the plan to understand, to really make sure that I don't want to say issues, but the opportunities that come up for connection, for community, that we don't miss those opportunities. And Daniel Spectrum was another one of those opportunities where, with a little bit of whiteout, we said, let's actually carve out space for an arts and cultural hub. So Daniel Spectrum is a really important space for community. I don't know if everyone is Canadian, but you know that we have like 8-month winters, not really, but almost. It feels like it sometimes. Really long winters. So indoor spaces are important too. So Daniel Spectrum really offers indoor spaces for like winter markets and that kind of thing. The park, again, super important. The athletic grounds too, this plaza. And I mentioned the pool is incredible. The pool is incredible, totally. It is it's probably it's a state-of-the-art city facility. It is the most, it's like a coveted, it's just pool, the classes there, super coveted, yeah. They come all over the city to use it. So interesting, I think that brings me to the next point. I was talking a little bit about how, privately owned spaces can actually offer a lot of opportunity. If, as a private sector firm, you have the awareness and ability to make it accessible, it can be really important. And it sort of unfortunately, when it comes to city facilities, they can be a bit trickier to access. So I'll talk about that a little bit now, because when we talk about the Aquatic Center, that's been a big piece of feedback from the community around access. So because so many community members from around the city want to access this pool, it means that Regent Park residents who maybe have slower internet, maybe only have 2 phones, or not 3 or 4 or 5 cell phones between like a family, aren't able to get their kids signed up for programming because they sign on, and then by the time they get into the sort of queue, everything's booked up, right? And so it's been a challenge, right? With the state-of-the-art facility comes a bit of challenge in this neighborhood of access. And similarly, the community talks about this even when it comes to the Regent Park Athletic Grounds, which were built through a partnership with Daniels and the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment Foundation, but now have been turned over to the city, and it is a city park. And so access continues to be a challenge there at times as well. But when we're talking about kind of other spaces, there's this great, next to Daniel Spectrum, Regent Park Boulevard sort of has this linear park attached to it. So a paved park, and the idea was that it was sort of supposed to act as, we sort of call it the muse, and it's supposed to act as a public gathering space. And, when Toronto Community Housing still retained ownership of all of the roads before they were turned over to the city, we activated that significantly. As they were turned over to the city, though, it meant that to book it, you needed to book it at least 8 weeks in advance. You need insurance. You need a whole bunch of other paperwork to be done, right? Completely inaccessible to the community, right? To use the linear park. It's not that it can't be done. It's that for the average resident, it's really hard to do. It's a lot of coordination, right? And so it's something that we've really learned through this process, and it's why the sort of space in front of this building, which is a privately owned public space, why we've kind of created it in that way. And it's also why directly behind this building is a laneway that we've also retained ownership of, because we know that if we want to activate and animate that space, then we have to retain ownership of it, right? And for Daniels, we've worked in the neighborhood for 17 years. We know a lot of the groups who want this space, who need this space. They know how to get in contact with us, and so it's easier for us to be able to just really, really quickly give access to it. In fact, there's a block party that's going to be taking place on July 8th in the laneway, and that's just the first, because the laneway is just on its way to being completed, and that's really just the first big event that's going to be taking place there.
Just to show you guys, the laneway is right there.
Or that's the Regent Park Boulevard Muse there. Yeah, that's the city-owned one. And then the laneway is just right back here. Yeah. And that's owned by Daniels. Yeah.
This other phase, because of what understanding how the challenges with giving ownership to the city, has that changed any of the plans for like the next phases in terms of public spaces?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Moray's covered that. Yep.
Just to make things go a little bit further, we do have my brother. He almost looks like me, Ismail and Gail, for them to talk about my favorite building, Dundas Spectrum, and why that is contributing to economic development and community use. They are all the time there, so we're just going to give them to speak on it.
Good morning. Happy Pride. Okay, sheesh, I'm feeling spicy and colorful. Yes, the Daniels Spectrum is a building that was given to the community, through community benefits, and that's amazing. I think you heard Fatima talk about the need for space. The beautiful thing about that space is that all are welcome. It is accessible. So whether you are a resident, market, or TCHC, you're a business, you're an organization, all are welcome. There's always something happening in the space. So we have the ground floor that is now called the living room. And think of your own living room, right? Everybody comes in, you hang out in the living room, you eat, you read, you come with your family, you on your phone, you charge your phone, like everything happens in the living room. And there's a beautiful bar space there that, of course, I love to use because I love to create cocktails. The beautiful thing about that space is thinking about the land that we're on, right? We know there are people who've been here before, and we know that there are people who have migrated here, and we know that there are people who have been forcefully brought here. The bar space, the wood that helps to create that bar space is actually wood, pine, fir, cedar that were here on the land before. And that's a beautiful way for me in terms of acknowledging the space. And we've got in that ground space, we've got a theater, different plays, performances happen there. On our second floor, there are a number of offices for businesses and organizations, whether it's African women acting, it's Green Thumbs, there's Square Circle, there's just so much happening in the space. As a network, as you hear about our advocacy, we decided we wanted to have an office space as well. So the co-chair on my right, Ismail Afra, and a few of us got together and said, let's see how we can get this space. And the first time we did it, that didn't work. But the second time, right, we persisted and we were able to get space. Thinking about even the pool, where we talked about the city, the governments are not willing to help us, but the community said, let's do this ourselves. I think that's the same thing with the space, and now we have 2 offices there. But the beauty of having 2 offices is that we get to use the amenities that are there, the kitchen, the boardrooms. So that means that we, the community, whether you're an organization or a social enterprise, you want to use that space, maybe you have a meeting with somebody, you can use that space and not worry about cost. And those things are important. I think, as entrepreneurs, we don't have any money. And as organizations, we don't have any money. So we need accessibility. So that was the third floor. The second floor, again, more organizations are there. We've got Art Heart, beautiful organization that teaches art to children, to seniors, to persons with disabilities, to anyone, and it's free. And the beautiful thing is when you go there and you walk in, there's people doing art and then you smell food, right? And we know food brings us together. So you're getting nourishment in terms of, your mind, your soul, but also your physical body in terms of food. You're getting the opportunity to be with community, right? That like-mindedness of, we love art, we want to create something. There's a youth organization there. So there is a music school, right? So there are so many beautiful things that are happening in the space. And I don't know a place in Toronto where you just kind of walk in and you hang out and do your thing. Like, it just doesn't exist. Community centers, like, come at this time, leave at this time. That's a space that's simply accessible to everyone. And that's the beautiful Daniels Spectrum. So yeah, we definitely thank the Daniels Corporation.
Thanks, Gail. I wanted to add something to that, just because you said it was the space was given to the community, so I wanted to add a little bit more to that and talk a little bit about Daniels Spectrum. The way that it's been structured is actually a community-owned asset. So what that means is, and it was really alongside Toronto Community Housing that we were able to make this happen. So Toronto Community Housing actually contributed the land on a long-term land lease, very, very small fee, like $1 for like 50 years or something. And then Daniels, along with Toronto Community Housing and with Artscape, which is an arts developer in the city of Toronto, raised the money for the rest of the building. So $10 million from the municipal, provincial, and federal governments. And then in addition to that, about $8 million through private donations and foundations, and through Daniels as well, which is why our name is on it, which is kind of the story. It wasn't initially meant to be that way, but it is. And so that is kind of how it was paid off. So it doesn't have a mortgage, for example. So that really helps with affordability when we're talking about community organizations that are in that space. And then a nonprofit was created to own the building. So that nonprofit organization has representation from Toronto Community Housing as sort of the landowner, and then also community organizations that operate in the building. So like the Regent Park School of Music and Art Heart and those kinds of organizations, as well as Artscape, which is the facility operator of the building. And Daniels now sits on the board too. There's been a time that we did and then we didn't and now we do again. And so the idea is, as the community grows, organizations come through here, as we've sort of mentioned, and as I'm sure that you'll hear from Ibrahim later too, there are a number of really embedded agencies doing really good work here, some of whom have been here for a really long time. But as the community grows and changes, community groups can join that board and be a part of sort of that ownership and understanding of what that building does and what it offers to the community. So it's really a community-owned asset in that way. One thing that we've also done in order to sort of make it accessible to community is hosted a fundraiser about every 18 months to 2 years. That is this is a bit of a side note, a musical that tells the story of Regent Park, that employs youth from the neighborhood, teaches them, sort of builds capacity in not only performance, but kind of theater more broadly, and then raises money to keep the rents low through a tenant sustainability fund at Daniels Spectrum. So it really is a model that has been super successful here. I know it's not necessarily common, but it's exciting to share, because I don't think that we see the whole value of that until we see it.
I'm just gonna cover the second floor. I think that second floor of the Daniels Spectrum is a special location. So many wonderful programs actually started from there, and now it's Canada-wide. And one of them is Pathways to Education. A lot of folks in the community were not graduating high school, or they were not going to university. So the health center, that building all the way to the end, right there, started bringing teachers, putting a special program together, helping kids with this after-school program following them along, applying for university, giving them money to attend the first year. And my sister actually attended the first cohort, and because of that, now she's able to provide for herself and her family. And that program was so successful. Now it's all over Canada. The second one I want to point out is the musical school in there. And a lot of folks don't pick up instruments because they can't or they don't have the privilege. But because of that program, all of our kids are now learning any instrument that they want. They can take it out of the school. And one of the wonderful things that came out a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I think, or a year ago, is that a famous producer worked with the kids. All of the instruments were put together into an album. And that album now is available for all artists around the world to pick it up and add it to their music. And a song actually came out of it. It's Nice to Have a Friend is one of them. I know if you guys are familiar with the artist or not. Yes. She actually came to the neighborhood, and now that album, if you hear it, all the sound is from the kids of the neighborhood. And a portion of that benefit goes back to the school forever. So if you guys download the one, the School of Music is getting something. I want us to touch point on the SDP, and we are lucky to have one of the coaches here. So if you want to say a little bit something about it before we move on to the 40 Oak Garden.
My name is Ismail Afra, and I am the Toronto Community Housing Chair of the Social Development Plan. I wear different hats as well in the community. And in terms of the city facilities, like the aquatic, the athletic ground, I know that they're inaccessible because they're centralized systems. So the City of Toronto has policies around every facility is equally accessible to all Torontonians. And that sort of has a disadvantage effect around equity. Because as you've heard, not many people have the same startups, right? High-speed internet, multiple devices. But just to give credit to the city as well, they're working with us to sort of problem solve that issue. And out of that came a program that made a partnership between the schools, Nelson Mandela and Lord Dufferin, so that part of the school program, part of their gym class, they go to the aquatic center to learn how to swim. So the City of Toronto is running a pilot to test that out if it works. And we're finding out that about 600 children go through the program and they're learning how to swim. And in that report, they also showed that at least 50% of them have never touched water before that program. So the city is acknowledging the situation, and we're in conversation and negotiating ways to improve access. So I just didn't want to make it seem like the city's not doing anything. So the other part is, as Fatima talked about, part of the revitalization of the neighborhood meant two different plans. So the whole revitalization stands on two pillars, two legs. One is the physical side, and the other one is the social side. So part of it is how do we improve and how do we transform people's lives? And they consulted the community, and 4 focuses came out. One of them is safety. How do we improve the image and the reality of safety in the neighborhood? And there's a work group that's working on that. So in that work group, there are organizations, Toronto Police, anybody who's working on safety issues comes together. They think through the issues. They come up with specific actions and preventions to tackle the issue of safety. So it's a collaborative space. It's unique on its own because it's a network of an ecosystem in the neighborhood. How do we solve safety issues together? There's also communication. As you can imagine, there's lots of stuff happening in the neighborhood. The question is, how do we centralize information and make it easily accessible for all the residents to know about the programs, services, and the initiatives that are happening? The other element is the employment and economic development. How do we make sure that all of this is transforming and benefiting entrepreneurs and residents? And the employment and economic development works on those issues together. And the third one is community building. We have 2 different communities that are coming together. How do we make sure that these communities are cohesive and inclusive? So we do that through events and grassroots leadership and groups. So that's the social development plan. And we've been working to make sure that it's resourced properly, because as you can imagine, if something is not resourced, it doesn't come alive. So we've worked with the City of Toronto, the developers through community benefits to make sure that the social development plan is funded. And we've luckily received $2.5 million from the city to make sure that we take these initiatives. And we're working with the developer through consultations this year around how to allocate 26.75 million. And one of the areas for investments is social development. So that's a bit about the SDP, and I think we'll speak a little bit later about what are we doing around markets. I think that's why you're wondering when markets are going to come. So that we have a strategy around employment and economic development. How do we create more markets and bigger markets, and how do we leverage space so that that happens? Thank you. Any questions before we move on to the next step? Yeah.
Are any community gardens planned for this area?
Yes, so community gardens, the best person to speak to that would be either TCH or Daniels.
So if you look at the community, there used to be so many spaces available for gardens. Some of these spaces, because of the redevelopment, are disappearing, but there's still allotments that still exist. One of the strategies were, why don't we make use of the roof of the building, on top of it? So a lot of the gardens are right now being relocated on top of the spaces, on top of the roofs. But that doesn't mean all of the gardens are coming back. Space is still limited. So that's for gardens. I want us to move us along. The second place that I want us to go visit is right in front of 40 Oak, that building, yes. And we have a special guest, and there's a special story. I'll say that, please. Right. So there is a street there called the Dreamer's Way, and there's a garden called the Dreamer's Garden. And Alceda is going to tell us why this is important and the story behind it.
Hi, my name is Alceda. I'll just call myself Alceda. In 1978, I came in Regent Park to live. In 1979, I get involved with Regent Park Resident Association. I'm involved in everything, development, we all do, and so on and different. It's a long story. And the killing, everything involved. Raising 7 children in Regent Park. They were baby growing up, and I have a full-time job. I was living at Bird Center. So when that didn't become a Bird Center, I laughed and said that's the best thing to do, is to bring Bird Center there, because so many children was there. My grandchildren, great-grandchildren were born there. And the killing started. I was told not to come in Regent Park, but I did not understand what they were saying because of what was going on in Regent Park. I did not scared or any of the above. I keep on going to work and come back in the evening. Lots of us as women meet at 63 Belshaw Place, and we came up with a lot of idea. And then one day, I said, we have to have a rally in Regent Park for all who lost their life through violent accident. One of the ladies looked at me and laughed, and she said, Alceda, you're dreaming. At the same time, I said, capital THE, the dreamers. We are the dreamers. And I said, I'm going to gather some of the youth. I'll get the police involved and take a 4 corners of Regent Park, the 4 corners of Regent Park, every other week. And we will have a rally against violence. I also get involved with a lot of parents that lost their children, almost all over the city, because they're a mother, and they only give Regent Park a bad name, and the children that was murdering all over Brampton, Scarborough, all over the whole place, not only in Regent Park. And I'm proud to be a Regent Parkers. 2001, I received a phone call. It was 9th of May was my birthday. I came from work, and I went around the corner. I saw my son, and he lifted me up in the air. One of my sons lifted me up in the air. And the children, youth, them said, put down Mumsy. And he said, no, that's Mumsy's birthday. And they called me and asked, Mumsy, is your birthday? I said, it's my birthday. It's the last day I talked to my son. Before the end of the morning, the 10th of May, I received a phone call. My daughter said, Mom, my granddaughter is going to have a baby, right? And I said, where? She says, Scarborough General. And I said, my God, I live in Canada here so long, and I do not know Scarborough. So she directed me how to reach Scarborough, and I find the hospital. I know I went into the labor room, the doctor found toenail, fingernail, and gave me my great-grandson. And I went in the room where my granddaughter should, and shortly after she came in, the nurses and all of them came in, and I get a phone call. One of my daughter called from St. Michael Hospital. And said, Mom, I just shoot. I said, is he dead? And said, no. I went over my granddaughter, the nurse and were listening because they just came in and put my granddaughter in a dress and they are in bed. And I went over my granddaughter. I said, the Lord give it, the Lord take it. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And my granddaughter said, Mom, if my baby didn't born, my uncle wouldn't die. I said, I don't know if he died. But as the Bible say that the Lord give it and the Lord take it. I hug her. I called one of the nurses outside. I said, could you please turn off her TV and phone? And my daughter and myself, we left. And we came to downtown. I do not know if it's the only vehicles on the street that day on the highway. How we reached Regent Park so fast, I don't know. I went to the hospital and I saw all of the Regent Parkers who were down there, my children and friends, everybody. At the emergency, I saw two men was coming up on the stairs, and one of them said, Mrs. Douglas, and I said, yes. And said, I'm so sorry. I hate to hear that word, I'm so sorry. Working at the hospital and hear that word, sorry, you know the meaning of it. Nobody don't have to tell you the meaning of that word, I'm so sorry. Okay. And that was the loss of my son. I went home. One of the police officers called me from 51 at the time on Regent Street and asked me if I want to see the body. And I said to the police, the body? The body? The body? That fucking guy is my son. Plain and simple. I said, he's my son, call him by his name. Don't call him by the body. The body. But anyhow, later he come back down and asked me if I want to go to identify him, And I said, yes, he took to the where he was. And that was the end of my son. Anyhow, 2003, I had a dream. I was at St. Bartholomew Street on Paschal Avenue. And over the parking lot, the sky was very blue and thick, and very, very thick. I saw babies from this size, bigger size, medium, and they all was floating. And the bigger ones stand behind, just like how you guys stand behind. And the sky, they were floating, floating. And I'm saying three words, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. These are the children that died through violent and accident. We have to have a memorial garden in Regent Park. Oh my God. I wake up saying the last word, and I went straight to the shower, went outside, and the first person I saw was our property manager, Albert Koch. And I called to him, and he stopped. I said, Albert, I need a spot to make a garden for all who lost their life through violent and accident. He said, Elsie, go ahead and choose wherever you want. But remember, the new development, we have to move again. I said, that's okay. So right where Graham is right now, where the youth center is, that is my garden. That's my baby. Paschal Avenue, where I was living. So I went and dig up, and I get people in the community involved. Again, they call me that I'm dreaming. I said, no, this is reality. THE, the Dreamers, we're going to have rally in the park. We start to have rally every other week. in Regent Park, get the police involved. I would send a letter to a church on River Street and ask the pastor to come. And he sent back message and said he will pray. I send back message to her, say watch and pray. When you're praying, make sure you open your eyes, for the gun will be in the church too. And that's the way it go. And they moved me from South Regent and put me to North Regent. And from North Regent, they dig around a little circle there. That's all I did want anyhow. My friend, they call me the Black Palm, and Palm McConnell is the White Palm. So I'm the black one, and she's the white one. And she said, El Seda, before I die, I will see that you get your peace garden. She died a few months later, after I got the garden in there. The architect asked me, how do you want the garden? I said, I am not a planner. I don't know how. I only can tell you I need it into a circle, just like how I see the children them. And he said, okay, I'll give you 4 benches in the garden. And that's the way the Dreamer Peace Garden transfer over to 40 Oak. And I am the Dreamers Peace Garden from 2001.
Thank you very much for sharing that. So many things in this neighborhood once is a dream, and sometimes, it's right here. When I started working in that building, those amazing trees actually changed colors. When I came, it was purple, and then it became green, and I was wondering how magical they were. I'm now hearing the story right now today. We're just gonna keep moving. So the last phases of Regent Park are phases 4 and 5. So something that I want to share in phases 1 is that so many of the things that happen in phases 1 are things that the community really needed. As Fatima was saying, coming to Regent Park to do basic things were impossible. If you wanted to do some groceries, you had to leave the community. If you wanted to do banking, you had to leave the community. So many of the things that came back were essential things that came. The RBC, the Scotia Bank, the grocery store, all the things that are coming back. My hopes for phases 4 and 5 is to finish Regent Park in a blast, that the community has everything that it needs. And sometimes Gail makes fun of me saying, you never leave Regent Park. And I say I have everything here. So let's talk about phases 4 and 5, what is happening and what is coming.
Hi, all. My name is Mireille Vasic. I'm with Toronto Community Housing. I'm the Senior Development Manager. For phases 4 and 5, which are these blocks here in the plexiglass, we partnered with Tridel Builders, Inc., and my colleague Brian is here today. He's with Tridel. So I'll just be very brief because I know we've taken up a lot of your time. The plan for phases 4 and 5 is to construct approximately 1,200 social housing units and approximately 2,000 market units. The first phase of the demolition is commencing this fall, so we'll be demolishing the blocks that are located here. It's a little hard to visualize because these are proposed. And the intent is to build out the last 2 phases within 15 years. This is old, so if you could refer to this. This is the rezoning plan that we have submitted to the city, and we're hoping to get approved this summer. 3 things that are relevant to this conference are as follows. So we have proposed 35,000 square feet of community space within the TCHC buildings. The intent is to build large floor plates, shelf space, and to then engage the community in a 1-year process to determine how those spaces should be used. The city councillor for the ward has proposed putting in a large ground floor space and then allowing market stalls to develop or to set up and sort of having TCHC facilitate that sort of market space within a TCHC building. The other thing that we have proposed is sort of this central market space, which isn't shown on this model, as like I said, it's older. And the Central Plaza relates back to your question. The Central Plaza will be designed in a way where it'll be flexible enough to allow for informal uses, potentially market space uses, stalls, and that's something that will come out through a community engagement process. But what's most important is that TCHC, as the landowner, will retain ownership of those lands. That's one of the learnings from prior phases. As Fatima spoke about, it's been very hard to use the lands that have been conveyed to the city, lots of hurdles, and so we understand that if TCHC continues to own those lands, we can remove some of those. And then lastly, we are proposing approximately 4,000 square feet of micro retail or affordable retail space for entrepreneurs between the TCHC and Market building that flank the Central Plaza. And so that space is being reserved right now within the rezoning application. And again, the plan is to go out both into the community and into the market to see how best to use that space, how best to design it, demise it, and such. And then lastly, we have spoken to the councillor's office about the sort of the hurdle that entrepreneurs or small businesses face with the fit out of retail spaces. And so the councillor has proposed that that TCHC work with the Economic Development Division of the city to see if there are any funds that entrepreneurs or small businesses can tap into in order to establish those spaces. So that's it for me. Yes, of course.
My name is Brian Sherwood. I'm the development director for Tridel, which is the second developer that's supporting the revitalization of Regent Park. We were inspired by actually this space when we came to think about submitting a proposal to develop this final phase of the revitalization. And we actually attended a Cultural Bazaar that's been supported by Daniels and Toronto Community Housing. And there's just a little area in front of this building where residents, because of having lack of access to other larger spaces, came together to create markets, to create a market where they could, like residents of Toronto Community Housing could use their cultural influences to sell goods and food to the residents that purchased units in this community. And one of the challenges that residents face, new immigrants face, people who move into Toronto Community Housing, is though rent geared to income is seen as a positive opportunity for people to level up and move into other forms of housing, the state of the Toronto housing market is such that there is no middle housing. There's really expensive housing, and then there's rent geared to income for people who are coming to this country and looking for new opportunities. So it prolongs their time in rental housing, in rent geared to income. And what we were inspired by when we came to this community is the opportunity for markets to allow residents to increase their income without being penalized by having also an increase in their rents. And that's why central to this new plan is a market space over 20,000 square feet for entrepreneurs, people like Alceda who came to this community, had to work nonstop in order to make ends meet, and needed an opportunity to find another way that she can receive an income as well as raise her family. So we've dedicated a significant portion of this plan to allow for that opportunity, because what we've also come to learn since being in the community for the last 2 years is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs and people who want to find other ways of employment that are more meaningful to them, that are tied to their passions and their desires. And what we've come to learn is that markets provide that opportunity. So we've made it a very important and central, literally central part of this new revitalization for phases 4 and 5. And I just wanted to add that. That was it. No, questions?
Do you have any plans for middle-income housing in your new developments?
The answer is yes, we do. We are working on providing opportunities for affordable home ownership to allow people who want to get out of the rental market to find an affordable way to purchase a home. We are also providing, through this plan, an additional almost 600 units of affordable rental. The definition of affordable rental is something that we're negotiating with the city. It's currently 80% of the average rent, and that's determined by the federal government. The city has adopted a different policy that is also geared to a person's the average income for the city of Toronto, and we're working with the city and the community on how we're going to deliver those 600 additional units.
I was just gonna ask, are you building more than one bedroom apartments? Because it's like a major problem citywide that everything is new developments, just one bedrooms.
You want me to answer? Yeah. Yes, very much. So, so for TCHC in particular, we have an obligation to rebuild what was in Regent Park prior to the revitalization. And so there are many 3, 4, 5 bedroom units. There was even, I think, a couple of 6 bedrooms. So those all have to be replaced. And then the City of Toronto also has what are called growing up guidelines, which specify that you have to build a certain percentage of your units have to be 2 and 3 bedroom units. Is it new? Yes.
Okay, new policy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's citywide.
Yeah. Well, downtown, in the downtown.
And it's a guideline. It's
But it's not employed as a guideline.
However, in the zoning bylaw, the regulations for Regent Park, it is a policy in Regent Park. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have 3 markets in Regent Park. These 3 markets happen in different locations. We have videos for you guys to see, but the first market we are going to start with is the Moonlight Market. And the Moonlight Market is actually being hosted by Gail and her team. I'm just going to pass it along for them to start.
Thank you. So as you've heard in context, the Regent Park revitalization effort is made out of 2 plans, a physical plan and a social plan. And part of the social plan is the Employment and Economic Development Working Group. And in that working group, we have all the key stakeholders in the neighborhood that's working on employment and economic development. We have a leadership team that's made out of the developers, Toronto Community Housing, employment and employment organizations. So everybody who's working on that area is part of the working group. And so the goal of the table is to increase employment rates and entrepreneurial opportunities. So that's the broader goal that the whole work group is working on. So in doing that, we've developed a strategy to tackle both the employment rates and the entrepreneurial opportunity. So with the employment rates, we're working very closely with the developers around what's called the connected communities work. The idea here is that we have a staff, we've received a grant from Metcalf to work on this project. And the idea is we work closely with the developer to anticipate all the job opportunities that are coming through development so that the coordinator will work with the developer to anticipate that. And basically, we'll gather information on what are the requirements in order to to get that job in terms of certification, in terms of training, and we will do a deep community outreach to community. And through information sessions, we will inform them in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, these are the available jobs that are coming. And these are the requirements, certifications, training that are needed to land that job. And we'll be working closely with the employment service organizations to provide wraparound supports so that in partnership, for instance, if they need through George Brown, through the universities, through apprenticeship, all those will be provided through a pathway of supports so that by the time the job comes in, those who are interested not only know ahead of time, but they've went through a pathway to receive the credentials that they need in order to land. So that's the employment angle that we're working on as part of our strategy. In terms of entrepreneurial opportunities, we have a wealth creation strategy that we've developed and I'll have my co-chair, Gail, speak about that.
Good morning. So as part of our goal for economic development, that is to increase entrepreneurial opportunities and support. Can you go to the next slide? And so, you know, we did a research project commissioned by the City of Toronto around community wealth building. So we did some focus group surveys, et cetera. And in that report, we've created an entrepreneurial pathway. I'd say it's about 6 or 7 steps, but this is our starting point. And so the goal here is to, for each step along an entrepreneur's journey, to ensure that all the supports are there, whether those are from the city, you know, agencies, grassroots organizations, the developers. What are the supports that are required along this pathway? Next slide. And so the first part of the pathway is the learning series, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you know that you got to learn some things in order to do this. How do you start your business, grow your business, marketing, branding, promotions, accounting, your business model, business plan, you name it. That's what we're working through. So we are actually, we've hired a coordinator or a project lead, who will help us build this out. And so we've got a grant that's going to do that for us. So everything we do is kind of driven by somebody giving us some money to do that. The second is now you've gotten the learnings that you need to be an entrepreneur. Here are some markets that you can now go and test. So the Cultural Bazaar, our Moonlight Market, and Taste of Regent Park, those are the 3 markets that are permanently here. Next slide. Then you've gotten some opportunities to do a market, right? So kind of low cost opportunity. Now you can test a bit more, especially when it comes to food entrepreneurship. We have a 3-month cafe pop-up. So now you're there, you've got a menu, you're there every day or specific days. So a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more continuity. So you're, again, applying those learnings from step 1. Next slide. So say 3A and 3B. Now you can get into your own container. So again, the cost increases, but you've learned more. So you're able now to say, does this business really work in a container market? Is that the way to go? Now you're dealing with more expenses, electricity and water and all the pieces that go along with that. Number 4, community retail. I think we heard Tridell and Daniels talk about shared community space. So maybe there's this big building and you know you've got 7 or 10 entrepreneurs within that space. Now again, rent is a bit more, expenses are a bit more, but again, you've got your learnings from steps 1 through 3, so now you're able to apply that to community retail. And the 5th, now you're like, I'm as good as Tim Hortons and those kind of businesses, so now I'm standalone, right? Rents through the roof, but I've got all the learnings, I know what I'm doing, so now I'm at the last step in my journey. So that's our entrepreneurial pathway, and the key is to really build that out. All the resources are in place, so wherever I am at in my journey, I can jump into that space and keep moving. Next slide, trying to go as quickly as possible so we can get to the next activity. The Moonlight Market. You know, we've got the Taste of Regent Park, we've got the Cultural Bazaar. Moonlight Market fills a need, fills a gap. To me, you can never have enough markets, right? There's something for everyone. So this was one of the initiatives that came out of some of the research is that there were a lot of women entrepreneurs. You know, you're talking about COVID. How do we support? So the Moonlight Market was that idea. If you think about in this community, we find that women are out later at night because now the kids are in bed and they're able to socialize a little bit more. People are out more in the evenings. So kind of that later 5 p.m. and onwards market. We provide, so these are kind of some learnings that came out of that, right? 45 plus female identified entrepreneurs and growing in different stages of their journey. We've supported local entrepreneurs, so every time the market was open, we had some type of entertainment from the community. And throughout that summer market, we were able to create as well some employment for folks. So, you know, the one thing that I can certainly say about the market is that it created another opportunity. but it also created an opportunity for folks to realize, here are the things that I need to do a market and be successful about it, whether that's promotion or branding or your menu or how you talk to customers. Yeah, that's the Moonlight Market.
Yeah, just wanted to add, so as you heard, the lane, what do you call it, that's close to the Artscape building that is city-owned. I've actually, while investigating, looking at the city's community, different divisions, actually Artscape had applied to take the space again, and the city, they're in negotiations with the city to take that whole street. So that's because the Moonlight Market happens close to the Artscape building, but because right now that street is being negotiated, that means we can have in the future bigger markets that happen across that boulevard. So in yesterday's conferences, I was hearing how it all starts small and you grow it big. So there's the opportunity to grow this market even bigger. So that's interesting as well.
Thank you very much. Next market we have is the Cultural Bazaar. Soraya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Suraya. I've been living in Regent Park for the last 25 years. I work on the Center for Community Learning and Development at Corner in Sackville and Dundas. The organization exists since 1980s. We were located in Girard Parliament Library. This was the second location when we moved in, and a part of revitalization is kind of a hub, a learning center. Throughout the year, identify needs. One of them is the catering collectives that I created a couple of years ago. Now they are on transition to become a co-op. That is where we come up with the Cultural Bazaar. So throughout the year, it changed the names, evolved, and we had different location in front of the pen box, inside the center during holiday markets. And the city invited us for newcomer days. We were in City Hall. Throughout the city, we were under Adelaide and Young as well throughout the summer, and creating opportunity for the community members as well. The Cultural Bazaar the name evolves. It was about 3 years ago during COVID, and I say we need some culturally sensitive market, which is include everybody, and especially the grassroots who has a lot of ideas but cannot have a space to rent or to own the space as well. So that is the Cultural Bazaar. We came up, and it's very successful. And throughout the years, especially during COVID, we got a grant to hire local youth and adults to take a lead of ownership of their community. Shabana is one of them, and she will talk about her experience. The youth get paid to organize and do outreach, and also do the marketing as well. And it will explain also some of them. We do document all of the Cultural Bazaar that's taking place as well, and who are the users who are documenting, they get paid as well. This specifically was Regent Park Focus who documenting it as well. But we do have our documentation, every Cultural Bazaar that we do, and we post it in social media and Mother's Peace or CCLD, the Center for Community Learning and Development. Especially I see the needs so much so during COVID. People were isolated and being told not to go out and stuff, but and I see the joy of the people who wants to be out and interact. And also as we speak, the community is changing rapidly, and they want to come out, meet the new people, and that is also changed perception about the community members. They have their own perception, the people who are moving in, and also the perception about the people who already exist. I'm also a part of phase one who moved out and moved back. We had a lot of media perception, they are here to take over or whatever. But when you sit down and talk and have a meal or exchange information, that you change the perception of the people, human being as well. Then you follow the media and you hear a lot of stigma about Regent Park. And the people who are here, they are not good, or all of the stuff. And I've been experienced myself, and I raised 3 of my kids, and I'm foster mom for a little one right now. So I see the change. How many years? But I'm grateful what's happening as well, and there was a lot of challenge throughout the years. We advocate all for those change. It didn't happen by itself. There is still challenge that exists, but I'm grateful for the market that brings a lot of people together as well and create opportunities, and the youth take ownership of their community, and they earn money and get a scholarship opportunity by volunteering on the Cultural Bazaar as well. Yeah, do you have a video to play? Okay. It's working? Yeah, okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Patricia. I am a resident of Regent Park for over 20 years, and I got involved with Taste of Regent Park in 2015, 2016, around there, and since then there was no stopping. I think events like this is really good for the community. It brings the community together and everybody gets to know each other and learn about each other's culture and food. And I think it's a great idea to come out and sample the world right here in Regent Park, because we have people from all over the world living right here in Regent Park that is making food from their own countries, and that we can sample anything we like from around the world. So right here on this booth, you can find doubles. Trinidad doubles is the #1 street food in Trinidad. And then we have kurma. It's a sweet and it's also popular in Trinidad. And we have kalori, it's the #2 street food in Trinidad. And this, of course, is jerk chicken and rice and peas, and it's part of the Caribbean. It's not really from Trinidad, but it's a Caribbean thing. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Park, and I've been here for 9 years now, and I think this is an amazing event to be happening now. It brings people together after such, crazy couple of years, and I think that this event will actually bring people together and to reestablish what Regent Park's all about. And yeah, I love it. I love it. I just love being here and to be part of this and to be able to celebrate my culture, which I'm from Guyana. I'd like to celebrate my food and to, sort of introduce what all it's about, Mm-hmm. The name of the company I have, the catering company, is called Fig Trees Ethnic Catering, because I do catering for not just my culture, but other types of foods as well. I have roti. I have paratha roti from Guyana, Guyanese style. It's the oil roti. I also have chicken curry over here. I also have the coconut biscuits that are quite common in Guyana. And of course, basmati rice. And our black cake, which is a rum cake right here. These are made with wine, rum, and brandy. And it takes a long time to soak the fruits to make them. So I've been soaking them for like 6 months.
My name's Anika. I'm with Regent Park Cultural Bazaar, and I'm doing this henna booth plus the refreshment booth. And one of the most important things about Cultural Bazaar is that it brings everyone together and exposes us to the different diverse cultures and the multicultural demographic of Regent Park, and it really just brings that out. And honestly, it's just a great time. You get to eat a lot of food and have a lot of fun. Listening to music, because we always have a new artist who's doing their thing, and also you can get your henna done. So the Cultural Bazaar happens every Friday until September, and it happens from 5 to 9. So yeah, come by.
Hi, my name is Ines. I sell cotton candy, popcorn, snow cone, empanadas, chicken, beef, and plus lemonade. It's freshly made, the empanadas. When I come here, I wake up early in the morning. And I think this is important because it gives people opportunities for them to do their entrepreneurs. And it's nice because it's an open space where people could come and taste of different cultures' food. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rasmi Khadka, and then I like to represent for my country food. So this is for like a momo, and this is for like achar, and then we like to be. I live in here, so it's been like 11 years. So I really like for this Cultural Bazaar. Every year we do have. So I'm gonna be just representing for my country. That's all. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, this is Meera Kidwai and I am a resident of the Regent Park community where we're standing here today, and behind me you can see a great celebration of all cultures where presented are different types of cuisines around the world. And what I really like about this every Friday is that it gives you a taste of Regent Park truly, because you get to just experience an evening full of fun. There's live music, and you get to meet people from within the neighborhood. It's such a nice feeling to be around people who care for you, and you can gather with them, laugh with them. It's just so nice and refreshing, and I absolutely look forward to it every week. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amal and I work on the Anti-Racism Action Program. It's a project that the SDP is collaborating on and actually owns under the Regent Park Community Health Center and the Cultural Bazaar. Like, this is literally diversity in action happening here. So I think we should embrace and appreciate the diversity and the intersectionality of all the good stuff that's happening here. Food, music, art, textiles. It's a great event.
Don't forget to... So the last vendor that you saw, she was speaking, and she lives upstairs, and she opened her business on the Parliament Street. Yeah, she has her own business now. Yeah, so there is a lot of to celebrate as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Shabana? Shabana could talk about her experience.
Hi, my name is Shabana, and I've been participating in Cultural Bazaar from like 4 years now, one of the organizer, and I think it's a very good, successful event happening in our area, Regent Park, and it's like good for everybody. The Regent Park Catering Collective also participates a lot, so they can sell the food, and a lot of people like sew at home, and they can showcase their talents, and a lot of youth were also like hired and given like volunteering hours, and including my son. Now he's been working in a good space, so it's a very good experience for all of the youth and the females who are home, and it's a good event for everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any question for Shabana or myself? If not, I will pass it to Ibrahim. Yeah. So you were asking if we were asking any food handling certificate when they sell their food? So you have to be local of Regent Park, and you need to have food handling certificate if you are selling food. Yeah, if other than that, you could sell anything, you cannot own business. We are encouraging the grassroots as well to give them opportunity. And you could sell anything. If, yeah. So no. So usually the screening happens through Shabana. So she's take all the vendors and she's asking what they are selling. And if there is 2 sambusa or 2 biryani, and she said there is already biryani is happening, and can you switch something else if she has? Or when they cancel someone else, and she gives them opportunity as well. The screening happening through Shabana. So yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, we don't want to have 5 sambusa and nobody's buying. We want them to be successful. Yeah. You want them to be successful. So we encourage them to switch if they have another talent and stuff. We don't want to have replica of nobody's buying with someone as well. Yeah. Thank you. That's all? Yeah, you want to say?
No, that's
it. Okay.
I also want to share that long time ago, I was volunteering for the TD Learning Center with Suraya, and the idea of providing catering through moms in the community actually was first started at the TD Learning Center. The TD Learning Center was actually connected to an employment center by the city, and a lot of moms would come to the TD Learning Center saying they're looking for work. And I was a little bit confused as I was telling them, go to the next door. They would say, no, Ibrahim, you're telling me wrong direction. This is the place. And I found out that they are able to do catering for events that happen at Daniel Spectrum. Organizations that are doing private events would order from locally. So a single order might be 600, 1,500. So this really improved the economic status of all of these moms. And all of the moms now, because they are at home, they're learning about business, they're learning about catering, and all started at the TD Learning Center. So thank you very much, Soraya, for that. Now it's an epidemic. Everybody wants to start a business. I'm going to go for the next one. The next market that happens in the neighborhood is called Taste of Regent Park. This is one of the longest running market in the neighborhood. It was a farmer's market. Then it turned into a festival market. Now it's because of COVID, we rebranded it. Now is everybody's market. This market, before I get into it, I just want for you guys to know who Fred Victor is. So Fred Victor's mission is a multi-service organization that provides a wide range of services, and all of this is really to help people experiencing homelessness and poverty. The mission of Fred Victor is to have a healthy and thriving community where everyone has a home and access to opportunity. There's many locations that we have, but before I get to that, Fred Victor was actually started by Mary Sheffield a long time ago in 1886. It started as a boys' after-school program, but it turned into something bigger. She met a financier named Hart Macy. If you guys are familiar with him, he actually built our first location at Jarvis and Queen. But today, Fred Victor is a large organization doing a lot of amazing work, about 20 locations. Even I haven't been to all of them. I've only been to 3 of them, and so many things are happening. But Fred Victor, we focus on 3 pillars, which is housing, health, and income. And all of it is really to help people who are homeless and people who are in poverty. One of our housing, so many different housing portfolios, from emergency housing to respite to affordable housing. For our health, we cover a lot of range of health also. And the last one is income, to help folks with basic income opportunity, workshops with resume building. And 2 other programs we have is Friends Catering. This one is actually a social enterprise where folks are able to get trained in the industry of restaurant. And all the profits come back to Fred Victor and used for the programming we do. The other program is the Women's Bakery. This is also a special program. We have 2 cohorts, and these ladies learn the art of baking. And by the time they leave the program, they're able to bake different goods. They're able to work in different restaurants or even start their own baking enterprise. Back to why we're here. Taste of Regent Park. I want to show you a video. You will see myself there. Let me just play it. And thanks to our recording from Regent Park TV, they're always documenting neighborhood activities.
Taste of Regent Park is a vibrant weekly market featuring talented local artisans, craftspeople, community organizations, food vendors, caterers, and entertainers.
My name is Ibrahim Afra. I am the event and volunteer coordinator for Taste of Regent Park from Fred Victor. This event is called Taste of Regent Park, and because of COVID, we've been doing it outside at our building 40 Oak. But now is an opportunity for the community to come back together and really enjoy the food, enjoy the music, do some shopping, and we are proud to bring it back. And our sponsor for this year and many years to come is Daniels Corporation, so we couldn't do it without them. So they are the sponsors for Taste of Regent Park these years. So this is actually how the community is supposed to come out, enjoy themselves, create social inclusion, social cohesion, and really enjoy the music. So this is a community festival, and we are happy that it's back.
In the heart of Regent Park, members of the community come every Wednesday all summer long to celebrate, share, and enjoy delicious, healthy, affordable, and culturally diverse foods from July 6 to September 21st, 2022 at the Big Park.
Hi, my name is Patricia. I am selling Trinidad doubles. This is what it looks like. Chicken that goes into the filling, that goes into the barrel. And it comes with 3 toppings. It comes with cucumber chutney, tamarind sauce, hot sauce, optional. I also have kalori. It comes with an apple chutney. I normally have kurma, but I'm sold out.
Hi, I'm Thunder.
You're Thunder.
She makes the best doubles in town.
They're great, yeah. Reminds me of Mick Jagger and Bob Dylan, all combined into one. They're doing a great job.
Excellent. Excellent.
Taste of Regent Park stimulates social engagement and inclusion, increase access to fresh, affordable, seasonal, and local food, and foster local employment and training opportunities by providing a venue for local vendors, caterers, artists, and performers to market and sell their products.
Okay. My name is Urfa. I'm part of Catering Collective and the Regent Park. I make the Taste of Regent Park noodles, tofu, vegetable and chicken. Then I'm living here almost 19 years.
19 years.
Yeah, Regent Park.
Sang my song to Mr. Jimmy, and he looked at me as if he were dead. And you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need. what you want. You can't always get.
Yeah, my name's Avalon and I work with Green Thumbs Growing Kids. This is my colleague. So all of our produce is actually grown nearby in school gardens in Cabbagetown, Regent Park, and St. Jamestown. So it's very local. We also grow some items up on our green roof right across the street. So we don't use any herbicides or pesticides. And we run educational programs at different school gardens to teach kids how to grow food and even how to grow trees from seed. So they get to learn all about these different interesting things. And it's so interesting and they learn a valuable skill. Yeah.
Part of our Taste of Regent Park Festival every week, we have a good food market. So good food markets are run and coordinated through Food Share. It's an agency that works to try and create access to fresh produce, different pop-up markets throughout the city where they might not have access. So we do it just at cost, so Fred Victor doesn't make any profit from this. We just pass on the cost of the produce to community members. People can come every Wednesday to shop, bring your bag, and you can buy just one peach if you want. So you don't have to go like a grocery store where you have to buy a whole case or a whole box of something. You can just buy one peach, one clove of garlic, one potato. So that also makes it a little bit more manageable for people who are on a tight income as well.
Hi everybody, my name is Miguel. Thank you Regent Park TV for being here with us. We are the Regent Park Neighborhood Association. We work for you, we work for the community. We're looking for volunteers to join us for our board of directors. We are looking for new members to join us because the workload is really heavy around here. So we need your talents, your gifts, your time, anything that you can give us to us. That will be wonderful.
I'm Luz and I am doing jewelry, but it's crochet jewelry. I'm making my designs and I'm inspired in flowers and colors and that's my life.
Thank you.
Now.
So my name is Aisha and here we are selling some souvenirs, I'd say, from back home, Kenya, and we also have things that are from Dubai as well. Our oud, these are very popular and trending. And then we have these Swahili type of snacks. They're like, I am not sure exactly what they are, but they're like sweet. And then we have our dried up mangoes over here. And then these are our oud. You can also call them bahur. And then this is how you do it. You just light it up. And then it just has a nice aura to it. And then we do have some headscarves over here. Whenever you feel like putting one on, you can always come here and grab one. And then we just have our scarves, the black ones, a lot of people have these ones, the very original trendy ones. And then we have these flared out pants that are very comfortable, that are from Kenya. You just wear them, as you can see, like pajamas you can wear to the beach. So that's what I have. And then I'm also selling food on the other side if you wanted to come around. Traditional food, it's Swahili. We have our lentil samosas over here. We wanted to do something where everyone can eat it, so we did a vegetarian option. Then we have our fried potatoes. Let me open it up. Really good.
Very yummy, yeah.
And then we also have our mandazis, which are coconut bread that are fried. So it has like a very fluffy texture, very soft. You can eat it with tea or coffee. And we also have
I sell all the eco products and the handmade. All are my all bags are biodegradable and reusable, and the plant molder also is eco-friendly product. This kind of scarves made by the underprivileged women.
This is called the Gratitude Wall, and it was created this summer to remind us of things that we should be grateful for. Life, as you can see, depends on, different people have different things they're grateful for. Family, friends, health. Some people struggle with mental health, especially these past 2 years of COVID and being locked down. This is a great way to remember what the little things in life. So that's what this is. It's a great way for the community to also engage, and for kids to engage and be reminded. Gratitude is a very important thing to have in this life.
Today you're grateful here?
Community, life, my family, good food, because this is food, it's all about food here. So yeah, those are the things I'm very grateful for right now. Well, of course, there's so much to be grateful for. Just the air that we breathe in this country that we live in, right? Good health. There's a lot of things that we can be grateful for.
One of the events that took place during Taste of Regent Park Market was the Regent Park Film Festival 20th anniversary celebration, with a block party and free screening of the film Encanto, where hundreds of friends and residents of Regent Park enjoyed live performances at the big park and grabbed delicious samosas, ice cream, snacks, popcorn, and drinks for free in a family-friendly evening.
It's so bittersweet every time I'm next to you. I gotta crush on you. Sugar, sugar,
Hi, I'm Kalpana Srinath. I'm the Executive Director of the Regent Park Film Festival. We're here today at our block party. We usually have our Under the Stars summer series, film series in the park here at Regent Park. And this year, because it's our 20th anniversary, we wanted to throw a party to celebrate with our community that's supported us for the last 20 years. So we have some free ice cream and samosas and some live performances from a lot of great artists. And of course, we'll be showing a film later tonight at sundown. It's a really special year today because, as I mentioned, it's our 20th anniversary. And so we will be coming back in November for our annual film festival with more celebrations, a bit of a retrospective, looking at what we've done over the last 20 years in the community that we've supported. So we're really excited.
The event featured the best of Canadian artists, Parkseas, Canon, David Deliska, Desire, and Community Music Schools of Toronto.
Picture, I was to pick a filter, so I look good for sure. But did you notice songs about you on my page? Must be love on the brain. No, I won't drop no name, but did you notice?
I love seeing all the families, and during my performance there were these little kids that just came up and danced, and it was so fun.
Stress inside, 'cause he be my baby. When we follow, you're my pleasure. From Toronto to Atlanta, see our strengths now. Conversations, do it all now. What's your name? What's your vibe? Tell me what you like. How you been with my time?
Timely conversation with my pops. Verbal teleportation or motivation from my rock. Even if he's saying it just to say it, he believes that I can hold a nation. No shortcuts, I gotta earn my chops. Be slick enough or brave enough to untie the knots from my lungs. Build a meal from the crumbs. Build a kingdom from the gravel of the slums. On the real, we all unravel, but you can't run from who you are. Don't run from how you feel. If you run, how you gonna get far? But you can grow from who you were and grow into who you be. We all begin as seeds. I'm feeling right. Got you feeling like you wanna get the vibe right. Reach your vibe right. Reach your vibe right. Reach your vibe, don't say I'm in this. Yeah, I'm in this by myself, and I don't need no help. Said I'm in this. Oh, I'm in this by myself, and I don't need no help. Said I'm in this. I'm in this by myself, and I don't need no help. Said I'm in this. I'm in this by myself, and I don't need no help. You got some things you want to say, you got some things you want to do, but I can't hear you. All right, now I can't hear you. You got some things you want to say, you got some things you want to do, but I can't hear you. Things you wanna say, you got some things you wanna do, but I can't feel you. I can't feel you. You got some things you wanna say, you got some things you wanna say, but I can't. You got some things you wanna say, you got some things you wanna do, but I can't. I can't. You got some. Hey, you got some. But I can't. I can't. Everybody clap like this, like this, like this. Like this, like this, like this. Like this, like this, like this. Let's clap in the house like hey, 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 hey. One time, 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 one time. One time, one time, one time, one time, one time, one time, one time. Yeah. What are we singing? All right. I don't know it, but are you ready?
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. It was our wedding day, our wedding. We were getting ready, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. No clouds allowed in the sky. Bruno walks in with the mischievous grin. This is the story of life. Why can't we talk about? Bruno says he looks like play. So he flies my brain. Look at the umbrella. Buried in a hurricane. But I want to say, what did he say? We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. But it was our wedding day.
Hi, my name is Saima. I am here today with Super Peace, photographing this event that Regent Park does every summer. So excited to be here. It's such a nice event for everyone to come together. Yeah, 100%. I'm here to watch Encanto. It's one of my favorite movies.
This amazing celebration was followed by a free Under the Stars screening of the film Encanto at sundown.
We meet at 5, so in the park you will see a lot of people coming to the park 5 o'clock Wednesday. The first thing that we would like to do is for them to shop around. So we have vendor stalls. The vendors are selling all types of things, food from clothing, and by 6 o'clock we provide a community meal. The community meal is pay what you can, And the special thing about the community meal is we highlight caterers in the community. So this year we are highlighting 20 caterers that are into the business. They are entrepreneurs. Some of them have experience, some of them don't, and all of them we want to showcase their talent to the community. Each of them will be working in our commercial kitchen, so they are getting a training on how to use commercial kitchen. They'll be providing all of that meal and coming to the neighborhood. So each of these are from different cultures, so that's why we call it Taste of Community. So we want to highlight different tastes, different flavors. After the community meal, we provide music. Some of the music folks that we include are our own local talents. This year we're hoping to have, remember I told you about that second floor, the Regent Park School of Music. So some of these kids that are learning how to play, we invited them to come perform for their community. Now they're superstars, but they won't be too big for us for them to join us. The other thing that happens is that the film, after the tents go down and the sun goes down, our partner Regent Park Film Festival will show 3 movies in July, and the rain backup is the end of the month. We also have another partner, Square Circle, where they teach their kids how to do circus activities. So this year is their anniversary. So in the park, you will see a lot of kids juggling, doing some circus stuff. So it's going to be interesting. If you're still in Toronto, and some of you are from Toronto, join us this year, July 5. It's 10 weeks. It goes all the way to September 6th. The park will turn into an amazing, lively activity. Some of the other things that we do is also, we know food security is important, so we partnered up with Food Share to bring in fresh produce, and all of those produce that is coming, all of them there's no profit margins to it, just a cost, and all of that goes back to the community. And what is left over actually goes back to our community meal kitchen we have. So at Fred Victor, in this space, there's about 300 to 400 people that come for lunch because of dire need in terms of providing themselves a meal. And all of those produce that's left over goes back, so nothing is wasted. All of these markets are special. Each of them provide opportunities for all the entrepreneurs. I'm also an entrepreneur. As my brother said, I like to wear different hats. And I myself, when I see the entrepreneurial journey, that will really help for every entrepreneur person to really get to somewhere. We're all seeking financial freedom, so we all can do what we love. I want to thank you very much for coming to Regent Park. The next session is going to be happening in groups. I will invite Diana to come up.
Hi, I'm Diane. I work with Ibrahim at Fred Victor, and this is...
Hi, I'm Maggie. I work with Tridell.
So for the last part, we're going to split you up into small groups. Before that, we're going to give you a quick body break, but we're going to number you off before you go. So remember your number. Then we're just going to rearrange a little bit and invite you to take your chair to the table that we give you. So,
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go from left to right. So you have to remember your number. And it's 1, 2, or 3. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2. Okay, perfect.
most everyone has gotten back already. Do you remember your number? So this is where we would like to get your knowledge, your expertise, because you come to this conference knowing a lot already about markets, what's worked in your communities. And so we want to kind of give you, on that handout that we gave you some constraints at the bottom of the handout with the map about what constraints there are for public markets in the Regent Park neighborhood. And so kind of think about those constraints as you answer the question that you've got on your table. So each group has a slightly different question. So we're going to give you about 10 minutes or so to come up with some ideas around that. And then we're going to move from table to table to kind of talk through what you've come up with. So if you have one person that's able to speak to your points that you put down, and then there's also opportunity for other groups to add on if they have something that you hadn't thought of in your group. All right? Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Oh, one question. Yep. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. So thinking about Regent Park, thinking about those constraints that are on your map handout. If you need another one, we can pass out a few more of those handouts if we need them. But just thinking of those constraints, what do you know from the spaces that you've worked in, and how would you come up with some solutions to the question? All right, we're gonna start the timer. So get your thinking caps on. We're gonna bring everyone back. We've got group one coming a little closer so that we're back together more as a larger group. So we're gonna have each of you talk a little bit to what you've come up with. You've got about 10 to 15 minutes to 10 minutes to kind of talk through what you've come up with, and then 5 minutes to if there's someone else from either of the other two groups that want to mention anything or if there's questions. So the first group that we've got presenting, they're going to be talking about what makes a successful, long-lasting small business incubator or program, hub or program. They're thinking of financing and skill building. So I'm just going to pass the microphone over to the speaker from that group.
I have, for some reason, been granted the position of being speaker, but I very much welcome the rest of my team to jump in, particularly those who have more experience with business incubators in particular, of which there seem to be quite a few. So before we got more context for why this question was being asked, some of the thoughts that we came up with were just firstly, like, not being grant dependent and in terms of the financing, and also like, what do we mean by success? It's not necessarily that all businesses will go through a process of starting out at markets and then graduating to becoming a brick and mortar business. What looks like a successful business really depends on the market and the person running it and the community and a lot of other very variable factors. So we were thinking primarily in terms of financing and also what defines success, but then we got more context for what this question means in terms of this community, and we were told about the Tridel investment. Yeah. Do you want to briefly? Yeah.
So Tridel is going to be developing the final two phases, so phases 4 and 5, so kind of those clearish buildings on the model over there. And part of that investment is a $26.8 million community benefits package that will be available to the community over the lifetime of phases 4 and 5, so between 10 and 15 years. So what that essentially means is it will comprise things like employment wages, training programs, small business development, procurement. It might also extend to large-scale capital investments for things like physical spaces, so youth spaces, entrepreneurial spaces, et cetera. And so that context in terms of when you're thinking of your answers for what's going to work in Regent Park, that's just sort of the two final phases of this entire community. But it lended itself really well to your group because when we were talking about long lasting, well, 10 to 15 years is a pretty long time, and having $26.8 million that could potentially have a portion of it directed to small business development is helpful in terms of thinking about the long-term viability of an incubator or hub or something to that effect. That's all.
Thank you. That was really helpful. So it changes the nature of the question, because now we're no longer thinking about, how do you start up a successful, long-lasting small business incubator, but now we're thinking about, well, we've got property and we've got money, and how do we make sure that this small business incubator is able to best support businesses? And the sort of central point that we came to was having differentiated support services. So someone brought up, I think it was Peter, who brought up generational mentorship across different cohorts of bringing in different people. So if you have like a first generation of businesses that you're supporting, making sure that there is a longevity in terms of keeping in contact and investing in the human resources to ensure that those people can come back and then support a next generation of businesses. Something that I learned from, so I'm at the Canadian Urban Institute, which delivers part of My Main Street program, and something that we've learned in collaboration with various businesses across Ontario is that having flexible but well thought out assessment processes is really important, a way to sort of assess, is this working? And that changes. It needs to be both flexible in regards to, it needs to be responsive to different changes for people in power and governments and what they're saying about what a successful business incubator looks like, and also to the markets. But it also needs to be rigorous and well thought out. Processes are really important, I think, and assessing, sometimes it may be that some of the success metrics are economic. They legitimately correlate to feet on the street and bringing in revenue, but sometimes that's not the only way of assessing success as well, and sometimes it's about the networks and the relationships that have been built. So having like a really strong mentorship component that's lasted for like several years, or an engagement with the local business community and a strong relationship there, is also something that needs to be assessed, and it's up to sort of, I think, the business incubator to figure out how to communicate that that's been a success in that particular way. Wraparound services was also something that someone here is from Cincinnati, Ohio. Who is that? Hi, what was your name? Cordelia also talked about wraparound services at every sort of stage of supporting a business. So if a business is going from, being at a market for a minimum of 6 months, let's say, which is the case at the Findlay market, you said?
We have an incubator program, and we also have some launch spaces where businesses can be there and like try out being a brick and mortar for months up to like a year. And that for us, what we've seen is that success can be graduating from that space and opening a brick and mortar, or it can be identified that actually you hate this. This isn't like the model that you like. And we've had graduates who've identified, like, I thought I would be enjoying this, and all I'm doing is like HR and paperwork, and it's not what I want to do. And so that's a success because they haven't like invested all of the money and gone into massive amount of debt in order to learn that they want a different business model. And so making sure that, success isn't just you opened a store after this incubation process, and that there's different ways to look at learning.
And also the idea of time banking, which I'm going to turn it over to you to talk if you're comfortable. Are you? You don't have to be.
I just mentioned that business is often about making money, but I think time and time banking as time credit can be an alternative, which is more inclusive because we all have time. And we can all start with investing our time. And I think that could be for a lot of people in the community be a good beginning.
So yeah, different models of assessing, different ways of assessing what success means outside of just the economic impact, even though that is a part of it, and having differentiated support services depending on the kind of business and the needs of the business and the community that they're serving and will be operating in, business development plans, and making sure to put the human resources there and help with executing, which connects to the wraparound services. Also, does anyone from my team have anything to add at this stage?
I would just say that even though the world is in Regent Park, that if there are other opportunities across the city for some sort of exchange between, incubators in this community and incubators in other communities. In the UK, there's a national youth market program, and young people from all over the UK participate in local, regional, and national youth markets. And that's it's a great networking opportunity for them. It's a great way for them to be exposed, expose their ideas to different potential customers. So there's that, and that what gets supported by the business incubator should potentially be more modular and less linear.
Thank you for listening to our diverse array of ideas.
That's exactly what we were wanting, so thank you so much. Does anyone from the other two groups have like something burning they want to talk about in response to this question? All right, we're going to move to group two. So group two answered this question. In a community where physical space is limited and we have a diversity of entrepreneurs, from those ready for standalone retail to those with a side hustle, what are creative solutions for maximizing space and flexibility that you can think of? So thinking about maybe virtual or in person. So who would like to start off speaking to this from your group?
Sitting here and speak on the things. I think we actually struggled with the question a little. I think it's a question that many markets struggle with continually and always as they expand. And someone in our group did share that in the process of them developing out their new market, one of the things they're looking at is exploring how to share and sort of develop shared spaces, I think, that also don't at the same time encroach on the space one needs to do one's market selling. And so whether it be having someone use a space in the morning, someone else use a space in the afternoon, or we spoke about, can you have spaces that maybe are, say you had a bakery stall and had multiple vendors who were able to sell through a single larger space. We also had a conversation on shipping containers, which I think are becoming a widespread and sort of more accepted approach overall within markets, and some of the limitations to that as well as some of the benefits. And again, sort of this conversation on how do you create a permanent or semi-permanent space that can still be flexible and moving. I think one of the things that did come up that I was thinking about as everyone spoke was that collaboration and partnership, whether it be at a higher level or between vendors, or exploring those are really key parts of that. I don't know if anyone else has anything else they wanted to offer or think about. Or if anyone else also has anything to respond to the question or has a creative or successful intervention that they've had in this regard at all.
Do you want to? No. Anyone else from other group want to respond to that question? All right, group three, I'm heading your way. So our final question that the final group was responding to was, in your experience, are there examples of anchor institutions, installations, or programs that are best to combine with the market to increase attendance and foot traffic? Who would like to speak that from your group?
So we all kind of came up with this together and listed a bunch of ideas, things that we think would encourage visitation to the market. So we came up with live music, public art programming, a space for people to relax where they don't necessarily have to buy anything, they can just hang out and people watch, places for children to play, different cultural celebrations, a place for people to get some shade, some public washrooms that are clean and well maintained and always open. Dog parks, a virtual space, which again kind of dovetails with what Group 2 was saying, how there can be a virtual space for a market as well as physical space. this list is a little bit going back and forth, but going along with the public art programming, part of that could be an oral history, either of Toronto as a whole or just of Regent Park, because obviously there's an amazing story here to be told. And then also just lots of, again, going back to the public art, murals, color, vibrancy, just things that like kind of help make the place feel alive. And thank you for listening. Does anyone else want to add to that? All right, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, since we are at a Project for Public Spaces event, they have their rule of 10, and that a great region has to have 10 attractions, and then each attraction has to have 10 things to do, and then each thing has 10, all that kind of nested activity. So it's like the more reasons that people can have to come to a place, the better. When, like in organizing youth events or other types of events that I've been involved in, we would have sexual health information, we would have signposting to other kinds of services that people might need, information, bike tune-ups, barber, open stage, open mic, if you have a music school right here, busking, like getting people to come out and do stuff. It's, the more different institutions and the more organizations, get the school choir, get the, all that kind of stuff to diversify and your visitors.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to pop over there and I'll be back.
And I'm thinking about, I think, both these questions in conversation with each other. I do know that one of our really successful projects that we've worked with was the North Park Neighborhood Association out in Victoria. And one of the things that's really been, I think, successful for them grounding their market space has been having just like this sort of discussion about, having spaces that aren't just the market space, but what else. And I think they have a makers scent, like a sort of, I think it's actually, it's in a shipping container, and they have a permanent shipping container that is just, I think it's one of the only permanent sort of central pieces. And that's a space where people can just come and do and get resources around like their crafting and their arts. And I think it also brings in a bit of a like community, not all people coming to these maker spaces are necessarily looking to sell at the markets, but it does offer a space for that to also become a part of the like social economy engagement that's happening in that. Actually, I think, yeah, that was sort of the only thing.
Thank you. I actually work directly on this question because my Main Street program funds placemaking activations all throughout Ontario. And so a lot of it's been like murals, live markets, performances, etc. And in sort of evaluating what the most successful programs have been, and this obviously depends on where you're operating and the demographics as well. But one big thing is to have as much programming as possible that reaches across ages and generations. So you want to have programming that is friendly for parents, friendly for older folks, friendly for disabled folks. Accessibility is a huge concern here. And one of the biggest success stories we had was a night market in Waterloo, Ontario, which what's your name?
Mark.
Like Mark was saying, there were informational booths for teenagers, youth, young adults, etc. There's also bike tune-ups. There were also just like vendors selling things. There were vendors not selling things, but giving things away, art activities, and activities for children in partnership with the local library, where the bathrooms were also opened so people, particularly unhoused folks, could access services throughout the duration of the event. So as accessible as possible and as able to capture different generations as possible, because as many people are able to, the more people you have that are able to say that they had a great experience and they found something for them at an activation, the more likely they are to talk about that and talk about that with people who operate grants and give out grants and who are voters. So that's what I would say, as many generations as possible and as inclusive to different groups as possible.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this question in particular? Nope, no worries.
One of the things that I heard yesterday in conversation, and I don't think Christina's here, is a lady from Pittsburgh who runs a market there, and they took advantage of their proximity to a health center to implement a little health clinic at their market where the doctors and nurse dress down, they'd come casually dressed, and they found that that environment made it less stigmatizing and less frightening for people to come. So that's an idea that I'm taking away with me, and I want to share it with more people.
All right, so if we don't have any more responses to these questions, just wondering if there's any other questions related to anything that you've heard today that you want to ask the experts that we've got on the community in this room, or any other comments or feedbacks you have on the workshop today.
I'd like to add to what you said about bringing in other age groups. There's a tremendous underutilization of older people who might be very experienced, who might have little to do, and might be very interested in doing something in a market or a public situation. And this is a huge resource that's not being used. I don't care for silos and segregation of any kind. It's really good to have them included. It can actually help them a lot, and the different groups learn from each other.
Just going back to the question about anchor institutions, my experience was our neighborhood public school was a huge anchor for the community. So I'm just curious what connections people are making with the local public schools to engage the kids in some of these programs that we've been talking about. I don't know who that's directed to, but
So on Portobello Road Market in London, we have a Christmas tree every year, and at our Christmas light switch-on ceremony, we get school choirs from the local schools to come and sing. We also would do stuff about like healthy eating, and like bring the children to the market. They would go by the stalls, talk to the traders, look at all the things that were for sale, and then come back to an area where they would have different activities that they would do and be able to taste the different, fruits and vegetables or whatever. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways of involving schools.
Additionally, I worked in schools for a long time, and as I came into the economic development side of it, kids, like teenagers, they're going to be selling things anyways, and they are brilliant, so we're trying to provide them a way to actually have more of an incubation space themselves within our markets, so that we can say, okay, you're selling chips and candy out of your backpack, why don't we actually teach you the tools to be successful so that you can do this long term or outside of that? And then additionally, just the idea of really doing restorative development, so doing development with communities as opposed to or for, has been a really big thing for us, and really understanding like what does support look like for you, because it does change for every single person.
This is more of like an idea in response to what you were saying. I don't really have a solution for it, but I'm just wondering, in Toronto at least, a lot of our elementary schools and sometimes middle schools, they do fun fairs, and they're all coming back because of COVID. I've seen so many posted around my neighborhood now. And I noticed on the model, there's a new Catholic school going in, and then you've got local schools. So I'm wondering if there's like an opportunity there within the markets to partner with the fun fairs and work in some sort of collaborative way. Because I have very fond memories of fun fairs as a kid when I was in school. So I wonder if there's a way that there could be something there that's done, because they're everywhere in the city. Just an idea.
And that's a chance too for some of that intergenerational kind of mentoring and learning that Group 1 had talked about as well. Any other Any other questions or comments? Has it been helpful conversations? Yeah, interesting? That's good. I'm just gonna pass it to Ibrahim, who is the mastermind behind organizing this session today and bringing all of the various partners together to wrap it up.
Yes, so thank you very much. Your information will definitely help us guide along some of the things that are coming up in Regent Park for phases 4 and 5. The idea of this community is how do we create inclusion and cohesion? And that means everybody who lives in this community, who works in this community, how do we create a better community? And one way is through markets, through events, like my brother has mentioned, through community building, creating opportunities for people to come together, socialize, get to know who they are, taste something new, shop. And that is what I love about markets. And as an entrepreneur myself, the opportunity to go through this journey of learning, journey of selling what I love to sell, finding what I don't like, what I dislike, and that is everybody in this community we hope to create within these markets. And I know there's a couple of more days to go in the conference, and you guys are heading back. So before you head back, we have lunch prepared by two amazing caterers in our community. One of them prepared sandwiches, chicken and veggie, and the other one prepared Afghani Kabul rice. So there's different variety. It's pay what you can, but suggested price is $20. But some of you, if you forgot your wallet, we got your back. Don't worry. We're just going to wait for the Kabul rice. She is on her way. But I want to say all of these three markets would not have happened without what we call in this neighborhood without support of organizations, especially the developers. For Taste of Regent Park, our lead presenter is actually Daniels. Without their heavy support, we couldn't put the festivals together. Without Tridell's support, we couldn't put all of the amazing food that is coming out from the kitchen together. So all of the three markets are heavily supported by the developers, Toronto Community Housing, and we call it as stakeholders in this community. We try to put all of our hands together, whether you are an organization, a resident, or grassroots, all trying to make a difference. So thank you very much for coming to Regent Park. And I will see you back at the conference, and we hopefully will see what is happening all over Toronto. An amazing work. If you do have questions, I'm your main person to contact, but you can also leave your information with us to connect with us how this journey goes on in this neighborhood. Thank you, everybody.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. And for more information, please visit our website.